Hello and welcome to the CX Files podcast. I'm your host, Mark Hillary. Ian Barkin is the Chief Strategy and Marketing Officer at SYKES, based in Tampa, Florida. He has a long history in innovation and automation strategy, and if you have taken a course in robotic process automation on LinkedIn, then it was probably Ian who created the course. At SYKES, Ian is focused on moving the company from the present-day focus on CX being all around contact centers to a future that blends automated systems with more traditional customer service. I wanted to explore his expertise in automation, so I got on the phone and asked him about his experience, particularly with RPA. Okay, let's go straight to the interview. Okay, so the Wall Street Journal recently ran a story entitled "Everyone Hates Customer Service." It was quite a cynical exploration of how companies are pushing customers right to the edge of leaving, and then they put all the effort on trying to save them. It seems cynical, but is that really how people are designing a CX strategy today?
It's funny because it sometimes feels like it. In the article itself, actually, right at the beginning, they describe it as a break point, where you effectively almost lose your mind in situations like long waits at airports and rude store clerks, and you find yourself reading that and relating to it in a lot of different walks of your life. So yeah, customer experience doesn't feel as stellar as organizations would seem to make it out to be. Right? There's so much focus on experience of all sorts: user experience, customer experience, design thinking permeates and pervades. But I think it's actually it's more complicated than that. There's a lot going on, and a few of the factors are ultimately it's getting harder to please customers effectively. I mean, we're all used to the sort of the Uber or Amazon experience, and then expect that sort of same seamlessness in the rest of our experience interactions in life. But the problem there is most of those bad CX experiences, and the ones that were listed in the article, were they heavily came down on telecoms. But a lot of us can relate to that, trying to get a bill fixed or trying to check on accounts. What you've got there is history, really. I mean, you've got the heritage of somewhat more siloed and complex and legacy businesses that make it harder to create this seamless platform and access to data, and then ultimately experience for customers. So I think we expect more. It's becoming, and it's actually, there was a quote by it was the CEO of NICE, the technology and call center recording company, where the CEO once said that customer service isn't getting worse, customer service is getting harder. And so I think that's also a component of it. So I guess to answer your question is, it's not necessarily how it's being managed, it's how it's being perceived. Now, to be truly fair to the comment, because we're starting to use algorithm and technology and AI and machine learning and other things, we're starting to focus on that which it unleashes for us or sort of shows us, and that is very data oriented. And so if you let just the data and the numbers lead you in somewhat of a clinical way, then you do find yourself distanced from the effect or the impact. And so you could see that the reality is highlighted in the article of just doing the calculated minimum to maintain you and not piss you off so much that you leave, and then upon your voice rising and your anger bubbling, and the sentiment analysis radar algorithm saying, "Ooh, Mark's pretty angry right now," and then they step in and solve it. We need to find different ways to embrace and use that technology to make sure that you're happy right off the bat, and we know why you called. Right? We anticipate it. We serve you better because we have better information. We are proactive. So those are the better news stories that we need to enable based on just a philosophy and approach towards using the technology available to us.
Yeah, and that's interesting because the article itself specifically talks about one of the problems being companies substituting tech for
Yeah.
where humans would traditionally have served the customer. And of course, this would be great if it's managed well, because sometimes people just want a really quick answer, or they'd like to self-serve. And clearly, if you're using something like Alexa with Amazon, if it comes back with a great answer, then you don't need to contact customer service. But why are we still talking about it or hearing about it always being done just as a cost reduction strategy, deflecting the customer so they don't have to call customer service?
Yeah, it's somewhat disappointing, and actually in various different I guess calculations and approaches to the return on investment of using technology. You sometimes you're led down the path of just the easiest thing to measure. And so I've seen this in my career over the last almost decade of helping enterprises assess and then apply automation technologies. You go after the FTE because that's a unit of cost, and so it's an easy sort of just replacement or alternative algorithm just to say a human costs X, robotic automation costs Y, and therefore there's a reduction. I think, as you say, there needs to be more nuanced and experience-oriented measures to really highlight what good is and what good is worth, and the impact and value that good has on any sort of process that an enterprise puts in front of its customers. So I'm hoping that it's sort of earliest days of transition from sort of the traditional way of serving front, middle, and back office processes to a more enlightened future of work hybrid model in which we're taking advantage of sort of the best of the toolkit you have available to you, and then highlighting ultimately what you're going for. Right. So in some cases, and this is a factor in front office, often is that you're not going for shorter calls. Right. In fact, sometimes you're going for longer calls. Our research shows that if you spend more time with a customer and the customer's happier, the customer stays or the customer buys more, et cetera. And so you need to track the right metrics, incentivize and enable them, and ultimately hopefully get positive outcomes for the business and a better experience for the customer.
Yeah, that means that maybe some of the metrics that we used to apply when we were focused entirely on like a post-purchase voice-based call, where you're trying to resolve the problem first time, you're trying to do it as fast as possible, and maybe when we're talking about actually the customer engagement and interactions, they might just be over a lifetime. It could be before a purchase, during a purchase, after a purchase. It's more about that experiential relationship.
Absolutely.
So how do you measure that then?
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that, because there's a very siloed reality to that journey you've just highlighted, especially in sort of modern day consumerism. Because if you think about it, there's this divide or handoff. Marketing creates demand and hands the potential customer to sales, and sales, if they're successful and they sell something, they create a new customer, and then that gets handed over to some sort of customer support or success group, and then that if that goes well, you don't hear much from them, but if it goes poorly, it gets handed over to sort of a retention group. And so there's all these silos that make it very difficult to create that sort of end-to-end experience that you're going for. And as you say, how do you measure it? Right? I mean, you need better information to know that in each one of those silos, you are the mark that we were able to turn into a customer as a result of something that went well in silo 1, and we were able to keep a happy customer by doing something in silos 2, 3, 4, and or turn you around and keep you if something went wrong in silo 4, silo 5. So we need to start measuring sort of the value of overall investment, the time that we spend with customers, and that sort of lifetime value of you as a consumer and the relationship that we've been privileged enough to have with you.
Okay, yeah, and I know that you've worked on a lot of different automation projects and technologies, and quite often the focus is just on the customer interaction. So particularly things like intelligent chatbots. But how can you use intelligent automation both to improve life for the people inside the contact center as well as the customers who are actually calling for help?
Right. Well, it comes down to just seamlessness, ease, speed, accuracy, and those characteristics are a benefit to, as you say, both of those stakeholders in any engagement or relationship. So often today, especially in those more legacy sort of siloed sort of infrastructures and setups. I mean, it's sort of an age-old joke of you calling a call center and hearing that the computers are slow today, or dealing with that cold handoff, speaking to one person, getting handed to the next who has absolutely no clue who you are and starts all over again. And so some of it's around that data exchange, that seamlessly knowing who you are and handing you off makes the experience much better for the customer. It makes it a heck of a lot easier for the agent. And then we're also seeing a lot of really great opportunity on a few different areas, but one is sort of a collaborative sort of digital assistant, if you will, the cobot concept of enabling agents by giving them the information they need when they need it, having it be accurate and informed by just history and data. There's quite a bit now around just voice recognition and the ability to take some of the heavy lifting off both the caller and the agent at the very beginning of a call, to identify and verify that you are who you are, you're calling for a particular reason, et cetera. And then ultimately just enabling the agents to evolve their own skill set and learn and become better at any particular sort of transaction. And we're seeing that a lot in some really exciting work we're doing around precision learning, where we're able to instruct, guide, and train those customer care individuals, not only sort of for that particular call, but over the sort of the length of their career as they develop and get more capable and sophisticated. And I guess at the end of the day, a lot of us still want to talk to a person. And I think the ability to use technology to enable us to speak to people as quickly as we need to and want to, and to have that interaction be an informed and caring one, will become one of the measures of true sort of care, right? A true level of care and quality is the chance to speak to a human and not chase a call tree or deal with IVRs that don't necessarily understand what you're saying, or work actively to deflect you and keep you away from humans that cost more than the IVR.
Yeah, I read a case study of like an intelligent IVR at a life insurance company in the States when people were calling to file a claim saying that a family member had died, and they would get a sort of automated message of sympathy. It seems crazy.
Yeah. I'm not sure that a sympathy bot is the way to go if you're going for high net promoter score and good user experience.
Yeah, exactly.
Not at least not yet. We haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if I look at LinkedIn, I can see that you actually wrote the courses on RPA there. So you're probably a good guy to ask about this, because RPA is exploding in popularity at the moment. But where, in your opinion, where are the right places you can make it work within the CX process? And where do you see people really making mistakes and getting it wrong?
Ooh, how much time do you have? Well, thank you for checking out the courses. Yeah, RPA has been sort of a labor of love for me. I've been involved in the community for quite a few years now. And it's been just a tremendous journey to witness and be a part of. Enterprises went from never having heard of it, not knowing what the acronym meant, being somewhat frightened by the word robot in the name that didn't help it for a while, but we all just kind of got used to it. And then also, or ultimately struggling with one of the key messages was just how sort of quick and easy this would be to deploy and the immediate impact and massive ROIs it would have, and really how it was just a straightforward emulation and replacement of the teams that you have in shared services or through an outsourcing partner to do transactional processes. And I think, long story short, it's harder than that. And what RPA has forced us all to recognize is that you need to go back to fundamentals. You need to understand the processes in your business, and you need to understand the point of those processes. You need to be able to define what you were trying to achieve. Just because so many of the processes that exist in a business sort of evolved to be what they are out of necessity, right? You bought a company, you merged, you had somebody do nefarious things one time with an application. So you've got all sorts of layers of process sediment and oftentimes steps that no one knows why they're there anymore. And RPA creates this sort of catalyst to self-examine, take a look at what you need to do to transform any process throughout your organization to make it efficient with or without RPA, frankly, but then to design it to be the most efficient because it can leverage this digital labor and enhance your actual teams. And so all that to say, what makes a good RPA process? Ultimately, in the early days, it was rule-based, it was structured, it was methodical, and oftentimes the sort of mundane and boring ones for staff, but the necessary ones. As we migrate to more of an intelligent automation space, the automations are able to be a bit more fluid and capable at handling complex logic. But where you find it applied is really anywhere where rules exist in a business. Everything from HR onboarding to payroll to finance and accounting to legal processes, supply chain. The fact remains enterprises exist, run, and survive on process, and RPA is a spectacular tool in your toolkit, but not the only tool. And so that's why it's exploded, is everybody's running around trying to figure out where it makes sense to apply it. Some enterprises are going very large, are strategic about it. They've got centers of excellence. They're training staff globally. They're investing in it appropriately. And other organizations are a little bit more stuck, but learning that to get past that sort of roadblock, they need to do all the things that the successful ones are doing, investing in it, having their leadership state top-down mandates, identifying the sort of the ways to measure good, and really committing to a digital operation. So I think the next 5 years in business are going to be just really exciting, really transformational, and the chance for automation to truly transform everything that we do in a business to make it better, more efficient, et cetera.
Yeah,
clearly I'm super passionate about this. Sorry, I can't help but go on, but it really is game changing.
No, absolutely. And one of the game changing aspects that just really interests me, and where I really struggle to get answers from people, is just something you mentioned earlier about the industry focused on customer service is still kind of tied to the FTE as the main charging model. We still look at a person in a contact center, doing maybe 3 shifts a day, and we charge for these people. But suppose someone comes to you now and says, look, I have a customer service requirement that would be the equivalent of, say, 100 FTEs. But you look at the project and you say, well, you could actually do that with 50 people, and we can apply intelligent automation to handle the work of the other 50. How do you price that? Is that just priced as 100 FTEs, or do you create some sort of model that accounts for the technology?
That's a great question, and sadly there's no easy answer, because the training of the robots, if you will, if you bear with the fact that this software is like any employee, you need to onboard it and teach it what its job is. The training is a project, and so again, as I'd said earlier, and not an easy one. It is a complex project that requires a knowledge of the process and requires a commitment to transform the process in ways that the software allows you to transform it now. So often, sort of the most straightforward way is, again, the FTEs get charged as FTEs and the project gets charged as a project. There are examples of outcome-based or gain share models. Oftentimes, those are just complicated to account for, and it's hard to distinguish what the gains from an automation project were. So enterprises would rather just pay consulting rates and not be exposed to paying more money from the savings realized to the consultants. And in a lot of cases, enterprises, again, because they've been told the stuff is really easy, are trying to home grow it and do it in-house. And I've seen that work in some cases, but I've seen it not work more often. So ultimately, as the space matures, big digital transformation projects will be the remit of the IT department and not business. They have the budgets to commit to it, and they're the ones who have the obligation to put together the ROI models of what this is worth to digitize the transactional work. But also, back to measuring what's good. This can't be an FTE, X number of FTEs times Y dollars, pounds, et cetera, of yearly salary. It can't be that simple, and it mustn't be, because the point of automating a transaction, well, it reduces some headcount costs. The whole point is to create data, is to create a vision of your customers, to be able to study the processes and to free up people to do the real high value work, the judgment based, the empathy based, the sort of the warm touch interactions that make for a good customer experience. So we need to find ways to measure that and give that credit for the reason we're doing these projects, not make it just about headcount reduction.
Yeah.
If we want to compete on experience. I mean, heck, if you want to go back to the Wall Street Journal article and just give somebody a leaner, sort of less enjoyable experience, then yeah, just throw robots at them at scale.
Yeah, sure. So if we're actually talking about improving the customer experience and competing on that, then it's getting more complex, the way that you've got to price that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay,
Oh,
so
yeah.
just sort of summarizing or finalizing the chat then. You've talked a lot about RPA and automation, but in addition to that, if I'm running a contact center at the moment, what are the kind of technologies that you think are going to be making a difference in the next couple of years? I mean, how am I going to see the contact center changing?
Sure. So you've stolen some of mine by saying besides. So yes, so there's RPA, there's other automation like cobots, and the AI and voice recognition. So those are all going to play a part. But I think the areas I'm really excited about in addition to those, and actually in some cases as a result of those, first is our ability to do predictive modeling. And it really comes from having better data, reliable data. And it's that data that fuels our ability to create and design great experiences. And so it's it's going to be incumbent on all of us to find that sort of modern class of data scientists. And I often say this whole wave of automation is the renaissance for data scientists, because they have just that much more reliable data to mine and to model and to evaluate. And from that data science and analytics, we're able to truly commit to great customer experience design. So that's one. The other is, and something that I'm excited about that we're doing at my company right now, is real-time precision learning. And I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but we can use speech analytics to analyze calls in real time and identify gaps in an individual agent skill set. Right? We get to cater this now to each individual person, and then provide them micro trainings effectively right on the spot or soon thereafter to course correct and improve and enhance. And it's that ability that creates just the great people that I think this technology allows us to focus on, and that real good customer care and service will rely on. So that's it. And then ultimately, I think it's going to be the concatenation, the cobbling together of this hybrid approach to digital operations, to a true modern way of delivering services in whatever office you're talking about, front, middle, or back office. That's going to raise the general IQ of an organization about itself and about its customers. And hopefully what that means is that customer service is able to rise to the challenge presented by the complexities of silos and the demands of much more sophisticated customers that's currently causing the disgruntlement that caused an article in Wall Street Journal about how people are disgruntled. So that's what I'm actually couldn't be more excited, couldn't be more energized about the way that these technologies, responsibly used in conjunction with great people, can transform the way that enterprises interact with their customers and create great experiences.
Thanks for listening to the CX Files podcast. Please take a moment to review the podcast, because this helps other listeners to find it. And if you have any suggestions, then get in touch with me on Twitter or LinkedIn. I'm @Mark Hillary with 2 L's, or just search Google for Mark Hillary.